Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Wat ze hadden voor bitcoins.
It seems like everywhere you turn these days, Bitcoin is on top of the financial news, and with good reason. Over the last year, Bitcoin has soared from $5,100 all the way to $64,000, with some experts now saying the next stop could be $400,000, $500,000, even $1 million. Is it? Today, we catch up with arguably the top crypto expert in the world, a man voted the #1 most trusted source among experts in the crypto space. In April 2016, for example, he recommended Bitcoin when it was trading for $428. He picked Ethereum at $9. And on January 4th, 2018, just 3 days before the crash that set off the crypto winter, he told his 93,000 followers to take some cream off the top, helping them cash in on as much as 11,318%. But what he's recommending now will come as a surprise to many.
John, if you're pressing me for my #1 pick for the next 10 years, I gotta say, it's not Bitcoin. This is going to be much, much bigger. In fact, even if you hate crypto, even if you don't want to touch the thing, you can still profit from this.
Today, we catch up with former hedge fund manager and crypto legend Teeka Tiwari, whose average recommendations over the last 5 years return a stunning 281%. To discover his next top pick, his investment of the decade. Teeka, thank you so much for agreeing to meet me. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, John.
You know, you're known as one of the top crypto experts in the world. You picked Bitcoin 5 years ago, long before all the big names you see today got involved. Ethereum, Neo, Monero, all some of your monster winners. Neo, in fact, peaked at over 151,323% after you recommended it. You know, in 2019, in a poll from over 130,000 different analysts in the world, you came in first spot as the most trusted source among experts in the crypto space, beating out even Ethereum's co-founder. Now tell me, how does a kid who grew up poor in England, left for America alone at the age of 16, completely broke, go on to become one of the most influential voices in a $2 trillion industry? How does that happen?
Well, John, obviously I'm a long way from that 16-year-old kid, but there's really no secret. I've just worked my tail off. I put in the time, and when it became evident to me that 5 years ago, just how massive crypto was going to be, I just knew it was going to be the future, and I made a decision just to dive in. I said, you've got to go all in on this, and that's exactly what I did.
Teeka, I know not everyone who's going to be watching this is familiar with your backstory, so if I may, just let me quickly share some of your highlights.
Sure.
Okay, now, you got your break in Wall Street in 1987.
That's right.
And at age 20, you become the youngest VP ever at Shearson Lehman. You go on to manage a very successful hedge fund, some of your best calls. In 2007, you warned the American public about the financial meltdown. 2008, you penned an article showing the benefits of owning Amazon over eBay before the stock shoots up 50 times.
All accurate.
But you know, it's really in the last 5 years, Teeka, that you've done something really remarkable. 63 investments you recommend are up an average of 281% each. That's 112 times more than the average investor, according to JP Morgan, and 4 times better than what any of the top 25 hedge fund managers have achieved over the last 3 years. I gotta tell you, Teeka, when I heard that, I was skeptical.
John, who wouldn't be?
Because of this, we actually dug up every recommendation that you made. We tallied them all, and it's true. I mean, it all checks out. So Teeka, the reason I wanted to fly here and meet you is because I know you have a new recommendation that you're now making, what you believe will be the #1 top investment of the 2020s. And this may shock some of your followers, but I understand it's not Bitcoin, is it?
That's right, John. Bitcoin still has a lot of upside, but the best time to get into Bitcoin, if you were a smaller investor, was years ago. This is going to be much, much more massive. In fact, if my research is correct, which I believe it is, this could end up being 25 times bigger than Bitcoin. So what we're talking about is a $30 trillion opportunity.
Okay, so if it's not Bitcoin, what is it? In my research, I came across footage of you recommending Tesla back in September 2019. The stock was a split adjusted $44 at the time. It climbed to $900 afterwards, 20 times higher. So I'm thinking with the clean energy push around the world, I'm going to guess your top pick is a clean energy play, maybe a stock like Tesla?
That's a good guess, and you certainly could do worse than investing in that space. But no, John, my top pick for the 2020s is in a technology I call Genesis. Because in 100 years from now, when we look back on the waves of innovation that launched us to new levels of human advancement, I believe we will see this important tech at the very beginning, at the genesis of a new technological era. Now, you mentioned Tesla. Well, it turns out they actually just made a huge $billion investment in Genesis.
Wow.
Yeah, and also they announced it could be used in every car they sell in the future. And that could be 500,000 cars in the next 12 months alone. Now here's what I have to tell you. This story is way bigger than electric vehicles. As Forbes put it, Genesis will transform everything from banking to government to our identities. It will seep into virtually every sector you can think of.
That is a huge claim. Can you give me an example about that?
Sure. Car manufacturers right now are spending at least $30 billion to implement this technology. Over in the shipping space, you've got players like FedEx, UPS, Penske. They're all changing the way they ship products because of Genesis. Let's look at the biotech space. Moderna just announced they will use this tech to open up the country even faster, and it should help greatly slow down the spread of deadly viruses in the future.
Oh, thank goodness. So I'm seeing the different sectors.
That's right. There's also Amazon. They just filed a patent to use Genesis to improve traceability in their supply line. So because of the important role Genesis could play in the supply chain, 9 congressmen have already penned a letter to the White House imploring them to track its implementation. And here's what they said. It's an important technology that the U.S. must pursue to ensure the well-being and economic prosperity here in America. Now, already over 40 Genesis bills are circulating in Congress, and President Biden, in fact, just signed an executive order that we believe could speed things up even more.
You know, it really sounds like the government is taking this very seriously.
I mean, they are, as they should be. They're all over this. You know, when I say this trend is massive, it's even touching the Federal Reserve. So let's talk about Jerome Powell for a second. He called this technology a high priority. The Department of Defense, which is arguably the biggest sector of government ever created, already the Navy, the Air Force, they're spending millions of dollars on Genesis to secure their communications. But that's peanuts, John, because according to the World Economic Forum, Genesis could account for up to 10% of the world's GDP. That's $8.6 trillion. And they're suggesting that could happen in just 4 years from now. And Cisco, their estimates are even higher. They believe Genesis could help create efficiencies and new business value worth $30 trillion this decade.
So to be clear, we're really talking about a $30 trillion trend.
It's insane, right? I've never seen anything bigger. I mean, let's compare it. $30 trillion is the same as all the 500 companies that make up the S&P 500 combined. So can you see now why I say Genesis will be the #1 investment of the 2020s?
I get it. I see exactly what you're saying.
John, here's the thing. If you look back through time, 1 or 2 breakthrough technologies end up defining that specific decade. And here's the really important part. If you can invest in the companies at the forefront of these new technologies, I will tell you, you can change your life. You can literally make a fortune. Take the 1980s. If you had the foresight to see software was going to be huge, and you took just a small stake, nothing crazy, in Microsoft, can you guess what would have happened next?
Well, I'm guessing you would have become rich.
Rich. It's the same thing in the 90s. Say you made a big bet on the internet and put your money in Amazon. And again, you'd have just needed to put a small amount of money.
Now, in all fairness, you're focusing on the big winners here, Teeka, and we all know many of those early dot-coms, well, they fizzled out, right?
They did, but the truly groundbreaking companies, the one like Amazon that found acceptance in the marketplace, they thrived. And keep in mind, John, it only takes one Microsoft or one Amazon in your portfolio and you can make up for a string of duds. Now, this is important because this is why I never recommend putting all your eggs in one basket. You want to talk about secrets? Everybody should write this down. One of my biggest secrets to the outlandish performance I've been able to show is through taking small, smart positions in the significant trends of the decade. By doing that, you greatly increase your odds of landing a whopper of a winner. Sure, look, I'll be clear. Along the way, some of the things that you pick are just not going to make it. But if you can put your money in a group of companies at the forefront of this trend, it can produce massive gains. Like investing in Microsoft in the 80s and riding the software trend, Amazon in the 90s with the internet, smartphones in the 2000s, Apple would have been a huge winner here, or Bitcoin in the 2010s. I believe Genesis will be, bar none, the most important trend of this decade.
I dug into it, and Teeka's not alone in this belief. In a report from UBS that studied the richest families on Earth, 200 of those families worth $1.2 billion on average agreed this technology would, quote, fundamentally change the way they invest. Mark Cuban said if he were to start a new business today, this is the place that he would do it. And Forbes featured an article about two entrepreneurs who believe Genesis will, quote, be the most important technological trend of the next 20 years. In fact, they've already raised $750 million from institutions like Harvard and Yale to invest in the tech. As Teeka confessed, Genesis is part of the secret that's led to his monster gains.
John, do you want to know the real reason I was able to average 281% per investment over the last 5 years?
Please.
It's because I've been telling my readers for years now to invest in the early stage, the initial rollout of Genesis. And those early bets, they paid off. But now the action is starting to ratchet up and go mainstream. And if you're up for it, I'd like to take a walk with you in a bit and show you some proof.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's a bank around the corner that believes Genesis can help them save $20 billion a year in fees. Customers like you and I could save a ton too. Another, actually, this is one of the oldest and richest banking families in the world. They're reinventing themselves using Genesis technology.
You know, it's interesting, you mentioned a couple of banks, so it sounds like Genesis is going to be pretty big in banking.
It's going to be huge in banking, but it's also going to be huge in the car industry, utilities, healthcare, supply chains. Again, this tech, it's cropping up everywhere. At some point, everything we know will be built on top of it. And that's why I believe some of the smartest investors on the planet are now piling into Genesis.
Smart investors like who?
Well, Andreessen Horowitz, that's one of the world's top VCs. They made a fortune in early positions in Twitter, Facebook, Airbnb, Coinbase. Actually, their stake in Coinbase recently shot up as high as 429 times.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Mark Andreessen, one of the firm's co-founders, he's just a brilliant, brilliant man. He says about Genesis, this is the most important technology since the internet. So think about that, John. You know, when you have a man that's been at the forefront of so much technological progress over 30 years, and he says this is the most important technology since the internet, you've got to listen to him. The other thing that you're not going to read about is the Rothschilds. They just invested millions of dollars. Morgan Stanley, they're rumored to be on the verge of making a huge $2 billion investment. And Goldman Sachs, they've invested in 8 different Genesis startups funded to the tune of $955 million. In fact, Goldman has set up a brand new department to focus 100% of its energies on Genesis. And according to CNBC, they're now doubling their headcount.
So what you're saying, Teeka, is The big players are making a big bet on Genesis.
Massive bets. That is 100% clear to me. It is irrefutable. Even Warren Buffett, who's avoided tech investments for most of his investment life, is jumping on board. He has even called the invention ingenious. Now, Buffett is very stingy with compliments, so this is high praise indeed from the Oracle of Omaha.
Yes, it is. That's true.
You know, my team and I, we looked at all of Berkshire Hathaway's holdings, and out of the 49 total holdings, I want you to take a quick guess of how many of them have now allocated resources to Genesis.
I don't know. I'm going to say 5, 10, 20 maybe?
39. That's 80% of his investment book. You know, Suncor, they're a huge energy company. So they tested Genesis in one community, and people there are on track to receive refund checks between $100 and $150 a year on their power bills.
Wow. Think you can get them to come to LA?
I think it's going to be everywhere, John. But we've also got massive players like Visa, T-Mobile, Apple, and Amazon, all of which are Berkshire holdings. Actually, Amazon made big changes to its most profitable division, AWS, because of Genesis. MasterCard, another Buffett holding, has 89 Genesis patents and applied for 285 more. Now, they just made a massive announcement involving Genesis that's going to turn some heads. But this is what it boils down to. In my 30 plus years in the financial markets, I've never seen a trend of this magnitude. I've never seen a trend with this pace of adoption that's happening this quickly. It's all happening so fast.
You know, sitting here, I can really see you're passionate about this. All right, so Teeka, we've covered a lot of ground here, and you've given some really good information, but I'm going to be honest with you. I still have no clue what Genesis is. So tell me, what exactly are we talking about here?
John, Genesis is the name that I've given to blockchain technology.
All right, now, let me just stop you because I've heard that word before, blockchain, but you got me.
That's normal. A lot of people are familiar with the term, but they don't know exactly what it is.
But I thought you said that Bitcoin was the top investment of the 2010s, not the 2020s, so I'm a little confused.
You know, I don't blame you for being a little bit confused, and I will explain everything to you, and if you don't mind, let's go for a walk and have a little chat.
Oh, yeah, I would love that. That sounds great.
Excellent.
We hit the streets. As Teeka explained to me, while Bitcoin and the blockchain are related, they are not the same thing. Bitcoin uses blockchain, he said. It's the technology that made Bitcoin's algorithm basically unhackable and has led to its massive growth. But blockchain's future, as he believes, could be much bigger, possibly 25 times bigger or more.
You see, John, Bitcoin was blockchain's first use, but it wasn't necessarily its best one.
What do you mean by that?
Well, there's a concept called highest and best use, and it's really useful to help explain blockchain's full potential.
Highest and best use. That's interesting.
Yeah, let me give you an example. Last year, I actually traveled to New York City, and I wanted to show just how a simple plot of land around 56th Street and 5th Avenue, how it evolved over time. Let me kind of take you back into antiquity for a moment.
All right.
So back in 1845, you could have bought a lot right there on 56th and 5th for about $160.
Wow, imagine.
Incredible, right?
Right.
Now, William Astor, who was the millionaire behind the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, he bought the land in the 1880s and he built 5 townhomes. So this is when I talk about highest and best use, right? So Astor transformed raw land for a higher and better use, but it still wasn't the very best use.
Now, the best use, what does that mean?
Well, back in 1929, Stewart and Company bought the land and they ran a department store. So what they did was they leveled the townhomes and they built a 12-story building again, essentially improving the lot once again. And so things stayed essentially the same for the next 50 years.
Well, then what happened?
Well, in 1979, a real estate developer came in and bought the property for what was an outstanding sum at the time, $15 million, but he totally transformed it. So in its spot, instead of a 12-story building, what you'll now see is a 58-story skyscraper. Gucci and Tiffany's on the first floor. You've got 13 floors of corporate offices, 260 different million-dollar condos. You've got stars like Johnny Carson, Liberace, Michael Jackson have all lived there in the past.
Wow, that's quite the neighbor list.
I mean, it is New York City, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, the point I want to illustrate, John, is as the land transformed over time, its value skyrocketed from a $160 dirt lot to a 58-story skyscraper now estimated to be worth $470 million, right? That's a 3 million time increase in value. That, John, is the power of highest and best use. It's a very important concept to understand.
I think I'm starting to connect the dots here. As blockchain morphs into its highest and best use, its value spikes exponentially.
Exponentially. That's 100% my belief. You know, John, if you add up the value of all the Bitcoin in the world today, every last one, it comes up to about $1.2 trillion. Now that's still, it's a big number. But remember, Cisco projects that this could become a $30 trillion market by 2030, right? So that's 25 times bigger than Bitcoin. You know, who knows where it goes from there? I want to be very clear here. Blockchain is a lot more than Bitcoin. Just like a skyrise is a lot more than an empty plot of land. With blockchain today, it's almost like we're back in 1992 in the early days of the internet. Imagine looking at America Online and you're saying, yep, that's the highest and best use of the internet right there, right? Think of the huge mistake that would have been, right? I mean, it would have caused you to have missed the bigger picture, not to mention a fortune in all these other stocks that did incredibly well if you were stuck in the belief that the internet was just about America Online, right?
Interesting. I think I did that in 1992. I think the internet came and I said, well, that's it. And what a mistake I made, and I would be making again today.
Well, it's great that you realize that, John. It really is, because what I think a lot of people really misunderstand about the blockchain is they make it more complicated than what it really is. It's actually quite simple. All the blockchain is a really secure way to store information. It's the safest way we have ever discovered to store and disseminate both information and value. We have never created anything safer than that before.
And that's huge, because if information is king, storing that information safely is a major deal. And that's why blockchain is so important.
Absolutely. You know, and the reason that makes blockchain so different from centralized ways of storing is that blockchain works by storing the same information on thousands of computers at the same time. So you might be able to hack one computer, but you can't hack 10,000 computers simultaneously. So what this means is there's no single point of failure from which the records or digital assets can be hacked or corrupted. Now, because of that, the potential use cases for blockchain technology, I mean, they're huge. I couldn't possibly go into all of them in detail right now, but to give you a little taste, today blockchain is being used to help modernize the $217 trillion real estate industry. That's 100 times bigger than Bitcoin. It's being used to combat $1.7 trillion in counterfeit goods that are sold each year. In fact, Amazon intends to spend about $400 million a year just fighting knockoffs. You know, let's look at the election system. You know, America's election system has really come under some close scrutiny, right?
Hey, you think so?
Right. If we move to a blockchain-based voting system, it would make voter fraud impossible. And that's why it's a blockchain-based voter system is actually being tested in the United States right now. The US Postal Service has even applied for a blockchain patent that could make voter fraud impossible, an absolute relic of the past. So you can see, John, that the blockchain is bigger than Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just one small part of really a massive pie. And I think blockchain is going to continue to be used and have a major impact everywhere. But there's one place where I think it's going to be the most disruptive.
Which one is that?
Finance. This is the reason why I brought you here, John. This is El Capitolio, the Capitol building for Puerto Rico.
It is beautiful, but why are we here?
Well, have you ever heard of the Medicis before?
Wait a minute, let me think. Now that's an old banking family from Europe, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. The Medicis were so rich, they practically funded the entire Renaissance themselves. So people like Da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, they all owed their livelihood in large parts to the support they received from the Medicis. But John, do you know how the Medicis got that rich?
I have no idea.
Well, they helped popularize something that today freshman accounting students all over the world study. And it's going to sound mind-bendingly boring, but it's important. So there's something called double entry accounting. Essentially, it's the whole system of how you account for assets and liabilities.
Okay.
At the time, double entry bookkeeping, as it was known, was as revolutionary as the blockchain is today.
Oh, interesting.
And what it allowed the Medicis to do was to become one of the richest families in the world. That's how powerful an idea it was. Anyway, the reason I took you here today is because the Medici family still exists today, John. And they recently set up shop in Puerto Rico. And get this, they plan to build a new kind of bank tied to the blockchain. You see, just like their forefathers, they see the opportunity in blockchain technology and want to be part of that next revolution in finance.
I found an article penned by the new Medici Bank CEO. He mentioned traditional banks spend over $10 billion a year on IT, but are still using 40-year-old technology, an old, almost obsolete programming code developed in the 50s called COBOL. Teeka then took me to the doorstep of another bank embracing blockchain called Santander. While not a major presence in mainland America, Santander is actually bigger than many of the world's largest banks, including PNC, Charles Schwab, UBS, ING, and Deutsche Bank. As I found out, Santander estimates that, thanks to blockchain technology, banks could save $15 to $20 billion per year.
John, there's a reason I've been pounding the table recently and recommending several blockchain plays to my readers.
Well, I've seen some of these, and now they're up quite a bit.
They are. It's because I believe we've just reached the takeoff point.
Takeoff point? What do you mean by that?
What I mean is this, right? We can agree that investing is really about timing, right?
That's right.
So timing is critical. Any major technological revolution, there are three distinct periods every investor needs to be aware of. If you get in too early, you're wasting time. You could be sitting around for years while the cake is still baking and you're not making any money. If you get in too late, you lose a ton of money because there's just no more money to be made. It's in the second phase, John, in the middle, the meat of the sandwich, the takeoff phase. That's what I call it. That's where you need to pay close attention.
Teeka showed me a chart called the adoption curve that helps explain what typically happens with new technology investments. There are three phases. At the start is innovation. This is when a technology is new, and the only people who know about it are the techies involved and maybe a few early stage investors. The end is saturation. That's when everybody knows about it. And the biggest gains are off the table. But the middle is where the action is. And with blockchain, according to Teeka, we're at the takeoff, the precise moment when a new technology starts getting major adoption. So why do you believe blockchain is now at the takeoff, as you call it?
Well, we talked about Santander, but what's happening in New York right now, John, is stunning. I've literally never seen anything like this in my 30 years in the business.
What do you mean? What's happening in the Big Apple now?
Well, have you heard of the DTCC? Does that ring a bell at all?
Vaguely.
I got to tell you, John, I would be seriously impressed if you knew who they were. We're talking about the deep plumbing of Wall Street right now. So the DTCC is the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. They are a major organization and they clear 2.2, not trillion, John, get this, $2.2 quadrillion worth of trades each year.
Didn't even know that was a word. Quadrillion. Incredible.
It is incredible. Now, here's why I bring them up. The DTCC is one of the most important corporations in the world, and they see so much value in blockchain. They've now moved $11 trillion of their trade clearing onto blockchain technology. JP Morgan, they used to hate anything crypto related, but let's take a look at what they're doing now. They've created their own blockchain, and they're investing $65 million alongside UBS and MasterCard in a new blockchain project. And if we look at MasterCard, they are all over this trend. I mentioned their 89 patents earlier. Well, my team estimates they lose close to $1 billion each year from fraud. And here's what I expect will happen. They'll release a blockchain-based credit card in the future that will be much safer. And I think it will make all the old cards obsolete. Already, they've taken a big step in that direction.
Really? Have they now? They've done that?
They just announced, John, that I'm talking about all of their 55 million global merchants will be able to accept blockchain-based currency payments. Now, that's incredible. Even the conservative life insurer, Mass Mutual, where President Biden has 6 policies, we're talking about a company that has survived wars, going back to the Civil War. They've survived famines. They survived World War II, the Great Depression. They've now invested $100 million into blockchain. So when you've got a 200-year-old insurer adopting this technology, you've got to say the takeoff is happening. You'd be blind to ignore that, John. That's why, to me, it's crystal clear the time to get involved is clearly now. Because as blockchain takes off, even a small stake could turn into a significant nest egg.
Yeah, I'm hearing you, Teeka. I hear what you say. So what do you recommend? Because I looked over some of your past recommendations across a handful of model portfolios that you publish. And I know you picked Bitcoin before it shot up as much as 15,000%, and some of your other documented blockchain winners went up as much as 1,241%, 13,848%, 37,573%. Those are some of your biggest gains. Not every play will perform this well, of course, we should say that, but your average, as we know, over the last 5 years is 281%.
Yeah, I'm really proud of those gains. You know, many of those big gains were part of phase 1 of the blockchain revolution I mentioned earlier, the initial rollout phase, rather. I believe this next phase, this kind of jumping off phase that we're going into right now, John, will be an order of magnitude larger.
Well, here's the question. How can our viewers at home play this trend?
Well, for starters, John, there are 3 specific blockchain stocks I believe should be in every investor's portfolio.
Okay, can you tell us about the first one?
Yeah, earlier we discussed the big impact blockchain is having in finance. Well, a member of my team recently attended a conference. It was a small event, but had several key players. Now here's a quote from one of the participants that stood out to me. I'm paraphrasing here. By 2024, every stock, bond, currency, commodity, every piece of real estate, private business, and asset will be digitized, and it will be freely tradable 24/7. We're seeing a major digitization of assets, John, and it's all happening, not on the internet, but on the blockchain. Soon we're going to see a slew of new financial blockchain products. I'm talking about things like ETFs, options, futures. Each of these assets will need to trade on a specific, unique exchange. Now that's important. I'm sure you've heard about Coinbase recently, right, John?
Oh, absolutely. And that was a big IPO, wasn't it?
It was a massive IPO. Now, Coinbase is a cryptocurrency exchange. Recently went public, hit a peak valuation that topped $100 billion. And one expert said on CNBC, the IPO was going to mint hundreds, if not thousands, of multi-millionaires and billionaires. Well, John, a brand new blockchain exchange is planning to go public soon, and it's 50 times smaller than Coinbase.
Wow.
Right, so Microsoft's venture capital arm has already put money into it. Paul Tudor Jones, the famous billionaire, has bought some Bitcoin using this exchange. If we look at Chase, Chipotle, JetBlue, and American Express, major companies, they've all partnered with this exchange. In fact, the Wall Street Journal estimates this stock will soon go public with a value in the $2.1 billion range.
Okay, hold on now, wait a minute. If this stock isn't public yet, obviously it's something that we can't buy into right now, right?
Well, actually, you can.
You can. How?
Here's what's exciting about this. I found a way people can take a position in this exchange now before it goes public, so they don't have to wait.
Okay, wait a minute now. Are you talking about something like a private placement? You know, most people can't invest in those.
Here's the good news. I'm not talking about a private placement at all. The beauty of this idea is that you don't need to be an accredited investor, basically already rich, to get involved. You see, this new blockchain exchange is owned in majority by a parent company that is already public. So anyone with a standard brokerage account can get ownership of this blockchain exchange just by buying shares in a normal stock. And my team and I actually wrote up a full report to explain everything on this stock, including obviously its name and ticker symbol. And we give all the details in the report.
Okay, what is that report called?
Well, I have a copy right here, John. Let me just grab it. Here we go.
Take a look at this. The investment of the decade, 3 must-own stocks that will power blockchain's $30 trillion revolution. 3 stocks. Interesting. All right, I want to get to the others, but before that first stock, Teeka, what is the upside on that one?
Our research suggests it's anywhere from 8 times your money to as much as 15 times your money.
8 to 15, that's pretty specific.
Yeah, look, here's the thing. As blockchain goes mainstream and more investors rush in and new financial blockchain products are introduced, this company will take a cut on every single transaction that's run across its network. To me, it's almost a sure path to profits. Look at what happened to other exchanges when they went live, right? So NASDAQ tripled in 4 years. The Chicago Board of Options Exchange, it shot up 599%. And the Mercantile Exchange, it went up 1,472% in just 5 years. We ran the numbers, John, and if you had put $5,000 into each of these exchanges, your stake would have morphed into as much as $128,000.
That's impressive, Teeka. Do you think that the same thing could happen here?
Well, let me be very clear. Of course, I can offer no guarantees, but here's what my research suggests. This new blockchain exchange is roughly the same size as the other exchanges were when they first started out. Actually, it's 50% smaller than the one that went up by 15x. So my research, it suggests the upside here is huge. And I think that's why Wall Street has been piling into the stock of the parent company that owns this new exchange.
What do you mean?
Well, I'm talking about companies like Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. These are some of the smartest money people around. They've literally scooped up 100 million shares between them.
Wow. Okay. Well, I noticed that you're focused on 3 blockchain stocks in the report. There's 3, but you've only told us about 1. What else are you recommending?
Well, you know how I mentioned earlier that MasterCard is going to allow 55 million merchants to accept blockchain money, right?
Yes.
Well, they're not alone. PayPal just did the same. They have 28 million merchant accounts. Visa also just accepted its first blockchain payment. But there's one specific payment company I'm recommending to my readers right now, and it's not MasterCard, it's not PayPal, and it's not Visa.
It's not?
No. You see, this was the first payment company to add blockchain to its payment systems. So they're a very forward-thinking company. So it's no surprise their revenues have spiked recently. They're up 12-fold since 2015, and that's 7 times faster than Visa. That's 4 times better than PayPal. The number of payments they're processing is blowing up. Goldman Sachs, in fact, was an early investor. They participated in an early $150 million venture round of funding. Vanguard, BlackRock, and Morgan Stanley, they've stockpiled 73 million shares between them. So can you see a pattern starting to emerge here, John? right? You want to talk about smart money? Vanguard, BlackRock, Morgan Stanley. Does it get much smarter than them?
Right.
In the last year alone, they've upped their stake by almost 50%. I think this could be the next Visa.
It is obvious that you've done a lot of research on these. Okay, so we have your number one blockchain exchange stock and your next Visa. What is the third blockchain stock that you recommend?
This, John, is a hardware play. Just like Cisco, for example, shot up 67,491% in the 90s because they provided the key hardware that helped power the internet. I found one company that has brilliantly positioned itself to scoop up billions of dollars in revenue by supplying the key hardware needed to power this blockchain boom. And already big players are lining up to work with them.
Who's that? You got to tell me.
Well, you know how earlier I mentioned car companies were making at least a $30 billion bet on blockchain, right?
Yes.
Well, Subaru has already signed a contract with blockchain stock number 3 to use their hardware. And it's rumored Tesla is about to start working with this company as well.
So, car companies. Got it. Anyone else?
Well, you know, we got a few other little companies. I don't know if you've heard of them. Google, Microsoft, Twitter, IBM, Amazon. Any of those ring a bell?
Yeah, I heard. They sound familiar.
Yeah, right. You know, little garage startups. Anyway, they're all clients of stock number 3. And that's why revenue for this company, they're starting to explode.
As he told me, JP Morgan, Fidelity, and Vanguard are all betting on the future of this company and have taken direct stakes. He recommended anyone interested take a position, and soon.
John, this company is involved in semiconductors, and there's a major shortage right now. President Biden is taking this very seriously. He even signed a new executive order to help address this shortage. And in his infrastructure plan, he's put aside $50 billion for semiconductors. And the White House is also backing a bill that will see $100 billion flow to these chip manufacturers and other providers of key technologies.
Well, that seems to be like a top priority, and I would imagine that's very bullish for semiconductor players.
Very. And that's why share prices have started to explode. There's also something else coming up, John, I believe will light a fire under blockchain stocks.
Wow, okay, what's that?
Facebook.
Facebook?
Yes, they are on the verge of launching and integrating a new blockchain-based payment system on their platform. In fact, by the time your viewers are watching this, it might already be live. John, this could be the biggest catalyst blockchain has ever seen. I want you to think about this. Facebook has 2.8 billion active users. That's almost half the global population. Overnight, you'll have an army of people ready to use blockchain. That's what mass adoption looks like, John.
So it sounds to a novice like myself that you're saying we should buy Facebook.
No, please. I shouldn't leave you with that impression. I am not recommending buying Facebook. Look, Facebook is already almost $1 trillion company, and sure, the stock could go up, but it's hard to envision life-changing gains by following Facebook. In our report, actually, we decided to include a 4th bonus stock that is the company that actually developed the technology behind Facebook's new currency. What's great about them is they're a fraction of Facebook's size. What does that mean? It means that their profit potential, their investment potential is way, way higher. This is another of those Cisco-type plays, John, that I believe could really soar.
Let's give the name of the report again to everybody if we can. The investment of the decade. 3 must-own stocks that will power blockchain's $30 trillion revolution. How can people get a hold of this?
Well, this is a report we've created exclusively for our Palm Beach Letter subscribers. And if you're a subscriber, you actually get this report for free.
All right, Teeka. So just to be clear, when we discussed your track record earlier, the 281% average that beat all the hedge fund managers 4-1, that's the Palm Beach Letter, your flagship research service that we're talking about here, right?
Yes, correct.
All right. In preparation for this interview, we verified some numbers here. Now, we saw that 755,000 people follow your work, and we also heard from some of your followers. BJ's story, as a matter of fact, stood out to me in particular, and this must be satisfying to you. Before finding you, she and her husband were defrauded. And within a year of following your recommendations, they accumulated over $1 million. That has got to feel good. And actually, I want you to see this. You may not know this, but I have a clip here. I have this iPad, and something I want you to take a look at.
That amount of money was life-changing security for us. And we're sitting in the security that Teeka gave us instead of the storage locker in a one-bedroom apartment. How can you ever say thank you to someone for literally changing your life that much? It's hard, and I'm sure it would be sappy, but boy, would it be heartfelt.
How about that?
You know, John, this is the whole reason why I left Wall Street. To hear stories like Betty Jane's, it's an incredible feeling. I can't describe it, and I certainly can't put a dollar figure on it.
Well, you know, we also heard from a Canadian couple, as a matter of fact, Dave and Christine. Let me get the information on this because this is startling. They accumulated $330,000. Another couple, Ed and his wife, up $400,000. Ted, in an email that he sent earlier this year, said you, quote, actually made him a multimillionaire. Wow. James, a farmer, made $2.5 million thanks to your help. Now, Teeka, these are really big claims, but we didn't take anything at face value. I'm going to be honest with you. We verified everything, and those stories, they all checked out. So tell me, are these results typical?
John, on what planet are results like these typical? They're absolutely not typical results, but I can tell you this, they are 100% real, and they are 100% verified. Now, can I promise everyone who follows my ideas will make $1 million, $330,000, $100K, or even $10K for that matter? No, I absolutely cannot. But here's the thing. If you want to have a shot at making atypical results, if you want to move the needle on your financial life in a way that does not put your current lifestyle at risk, and if you want to create results that have the potential to be far better than average, I will say you cannot make the same typical investments everyone else makes because you will not get to where you want to go.
That's when Teeka told me stocks were only one of the ways he was helping his followers take advantage of this decade of blockchain. Since Teeka was voted the #1 most trusted source among crypto experts in the world, I had to ask him about Bitcoin again. He told me that while Bloomberg is predicting Bitcoin will soar to 400K by the end of the year, he and his team have actually found a way of playing Bitcoin that helps would-be Bitcoin enthusiasts make up to $47,600 more in the long run. It's a smarter way to play Bitcoin, as Teeka told me. His team put together a report called the Bitcoin Boost, how to make up to $47,600 more using the 1170 account, to share their insights. He also told me about another report they put together that he was very excited about, a report called Blockchain Moonshots, 3 chances to turn $1,000 into $1.5 million. Well, I told Teeka this sounded unbelievable to me. I asked him to explain. He stated that while big gains like that were certainly not typical and should not be expected, they do occur. In fact, Teeka himself already recommended one such moonshot, Neo, a small blockchain play. He told his subscribers to buy back in 2017, and it shot up from 13 cents to $196.85 in 11 months, offering his readers a chance to turn $1,000 into $1.5 million. The key is what Teeka calls smart speculations.
John, when you consider what just one smart speculation can do for your life, the potential is so big, you can't ignore it. You know, we talked earlier about secrets, how I've been able to achieve some incredible results. But one of the things I've learned is you don't want to put your life savings into smart speculations because you don't need to. What you want to do is you want to put a small position, Literally even $100 or $200 in the right idea at the right time can get you started on the path to massive gains. So in this report, what I've done is singled out the 3 best small blockchain plays we believe could offer life-altering potential, including one that right now sells for around 4 cents.
I asked Teeka if there were any other blockchain resources he'd put together for his Palm Beach letter readers. He told me they just published a report on NFTs, those digital collectibles that have taken the investment world by storm. In fact, from January to February, this market shot up 29 times over, and celebrities like Michael Jordan, Will Smith, and Tom Brady are all clamoring to get a piece of the action, with more than $300 million in investments flowing into this space. But as Teeka told me, most people buying NFTs right now are simply rolling the dice and gambling. They are not making smart speculations.
There's a much better way to play the NFT trend that I think has much better odds of making you money. In fact, there is one specific backdoor blockchain play right now that powers almost all NFTs. And in my opinion, this is the lowest risk, highest reward way to play the rising NFT market. You see, already several savvy tech and finance giants, I'm talking about people like Amazon, Microsoft, IBM, and JP Morgan, they've all secretly taken positions. Mark Cuban is also an investor in this idea. Now, he did talk about his stake publicly, and he said this play dwarfs Bitcoin in terms of its applications.
Okay, so just to recap, because let's be honest, this is a lot. We've discussed your report on your 3, well, really 4 best blockchain stocks. We've talked about your 3 best moonshot speculations, your report on the better way to play Bitcoin and how to potentially earn up to $47,600 more, and your report on NFTs. Does that cover it?
Almost. My team and I actually put together a comprehensive investment of the decade package specifically on blockchain. We also included a video training series that covers, among other things, another blockchain trend that legendary investor Cathie Wood of ARK Invest believes will reach $4.6 trillion in size just by 2025.
Well, there you go. There's another big trend. Now, that blockchain package, is that something that all your Palm Beach letter subscribers get for free?
Correct. Our research is exclusively limited just to our Palm Beach members.
All right, for those watching at home, tell us, how does the Palm Beach letter work?
It's actually really simple. My team and I, we monitor multiple different investments. We're always investigating new opportunities. Generally, post-COVID, we're flying around, we're attending conferences, meeting with key people, executives who really know what's going on. And what we do is each month, we rank different opportunities and then we hand select just one investment we think has the biggest potential. We write it up, we keep it short and simple. It'll be anywhere from 8 to 16 pages. And we lay out the case and we tell our readers specifically why we think it's going up, how much we think it could rise, and then we give step-by-step details on how to actually own it.
So it's once a month?
Yes, once a month. Of course, all new subscribers get added to my proprietary alert send list, so if there are any urgent updates or sell alerts, we send those out right away. So for example, back on January 4th, 2018, I sent a profit alert to my subscribers before the big crypto crash that happened just 3 days later, and that helped them lock in an 11,318% gain. We also have a daily communique we send out to those who are interested, and of course we have a top-notch US-based client support team for any questions about subscriptions. We also have a model portfolio with our current picks that is on our members-only website, which is also where you can find out and read all of our reports.
I asked Teeka how much it cost to join the Palm Beach letter. Well, given his track record and the hedge fund beating numbers he's put up, I was expecting something out of reach, to be honest. In fact, according to Bloomberg, the top hedge fund managers in the world last year each made over $1 billion. His answer, however, surprised me. Since the cost of their research is divided among thousands of subscribers, The retail price for a one-year subscription was only $199. For viewers of our Investing Masters program, however, he said he'd ask his team to put up a page with a special discounted price of $49. And he would make sure anyone who signed up would be sent the full blockchain package he and his team put together. Our time was up. It was time for me to go to the airport and head home to LA. But before I left, I asked if he had any last words for our viewers. He turned to face the camera and said this.
Friends, I'm going to speak to you directly for a minute and kind of break protocol here. You probably don't know me, and I certainly don't know you. But if you've watched this entire interview, I feel like I know at least a little bit something about you. First, you have enough attention. You have enough of an attention span to watch a full program, and that's saying a lot these days. Two, you're obviously very interested in the world of investing. Here's what I want you to do. Here's what I'm asking you to do. I want you to try out the Palm Beach letter. There's absolutely no risk with your subscription. You'll get 60 full days to try out the letter, 100% risk-free. What I'm going to ask you to do is look at the reports my team and I have put together. Start with the report on our top 3 blockchain stocks. I beg of you, read everything, but most importantly of all, question everything. Don't accept anything at face value. I want you to be rigorous in your analysis. And then I want you to ask yourself, based on all the research we've put together and what you've seen, do you believe our thesis holds up? Do you believe blockchain will be as big as I believe it will be? As big as the World Economic Forum believes it will be? As big as Andreessen Horowitz believes it will be? As big as Warren Buffett believes it will be? As big as Goldman Sachs believes it will be? As big as MasterCard and everyone else getting involved in this space believes it will be? If you say, no, I don't agree with these people and these companies, that's fine. I will always respect the decision of someone who weighs all the facts and makes an informed decision. But if you do agree with me and all of these world-class companies getting involved, that the blockchain surge is inevitable, that it's real, that especially in this ever-increasing digital world, we will see massive blockchain adoption. If you believe that as I do, then I think the answer is clear. And so what I would ask you to do is take $49 and invest it in yourself. $49 just doesn't buy much today, but if I'm right, and I believe I am, and these investments pay out as my research suggests they will, you have to ask yourself, what could that mean for you? What does that mean for your family, for the life that you'll have moving forward? And that's why I want you to subscribe. That's why I want you to try it out. And that's why I want you to see if it's right for you. You have my word. I will do absolutely everything in my power to keep bringing you the same kind of recommendations I've been sending the Palm Beach letter readers over the last 5 years, to keep striving to achieve the same results. And if and when you succeed, there's nothing more I'd like from you than to get a video or an email where you share your success story. Because for me, that's really what makes it all worthwhile.
You know, Teeka, just being here with you, I can see that you say what you mean and you mean what you say. You're very connected to this. You're very passionate about this. That's nice to see. But you're also passionate about helping everyday people do what's possible. So I want to thank you for granting me this interview, because not only has it been enlightening, it's just been a real pleasure being with you today, Teeka. I appreciate it.
John, I want to thank you. The pleasure has been all mine. You have asked some wonderful questions. It was really wonderful spending the day with you.
That wraps up this edition of Investing Masters featuring Teeka Tiwari. Hope you enjoyed it. You've seen the results, how Teeka has outperformed just about everyone and is averaging 281%. Part of his success, and where he's focusing now, is blockchain. Now, below this video, you'll be able to find the special page Teeka and his team put together for you and our other viewers. By clicking the link, you have the opportunity to try out a 1-year subscription to the Palm Beach Letters, Teeka's flagship investment letter, for just $49. The subscription is risk-free. You have 60 days to try it out 100% risk-free. On the special page, you'll see all the reports I covered with Teeka, including the investment of the decade, 3 must-own stocks that will power blockchain's $30 trillion revolution, blockchain moonshots, 3 chances to turn $1,000 into $1.5 million, the Bitcoin boost, how to make up to $47,600 more using the 1170 account, the #1 way to play NFTs, his video training series, as well as another key resource we didn't have a chance to cover in the interview. When you click the link below this video, you'll be able to review everything for yourself before making your final decision. I'm John Burke, and this has been Investing Masters. Thank you for tuning in.